Hello and welcome to Stay at Home Physics. Today we're going to look at the connection between electricity and magnetism by building a simple electric motor. What we need to know about electricity and magnetism for this project is that when a current runs through a wire, so in this case we can see that the current is running in this direction from positive to negative, that a magnetic field is induced. So if I use my right hand to point my thumb in the direction of the current, then I can curl my fingers and they will point in the direction of the magnetic field. And so if I turn this around this way, you can see that my fingers are pointing the same way as the magnetic field is. The second thing we need to consider is that when we loop a wire, and we do this many thousands of times over sometimes, very common in all sorts of devices, that we can see then that the magnetic field is pointing 90 degrees to the loop. So basically inside the loop here, it's pointing in this direction. And so we can tell that by knowing what direction the current is running in. And in this case, I know that the positive is here, so it's going this way. So if I curl my fingers in the direction of the current this time, not my thumb, but my fingers curl in the direction of the current when there's a loop, my thumb will point in the direction of the magnetic field. And again, I use my right hand. So that's two right hand rules for knowing how the current and how the magnetic field are behaving. So to build a simple electric motor, we're going to make a solenoid, which is what many loops are called. This is one here. This has got thousands and thousands of them in there. When you do that, you strengthen the magnetic field, and so we're basically going to turn a wire into a small magnet. So here's what we're going to need. To build a simple electric motor, we will need a magnet, a strong one, some light sandpaper, copper wire that's insulated. There's a clear plastic coating on there, which we're going to remove some of, 2 paper clips, a battery, and some tape. Any tape will do. I like to use a D-cell battery because I use it to coil my wire into my solenoid. So I'm going to straighten this out. This is about 2.5 feet. Maybe 3 feet, but you just need enough to make 7 loops around your battery. So I'm going to put a whole bunch here out on the end, and I'm going to use some wire cutters or scissors to cut that off later. And I'm going to go around 7 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's nothing really special about 7 other than the more loops you have, the stronger the magnetic field, because each loop reinforces the others. But if you have too many loops on here, it gets heavy and then it gets harder to spin. So I'll slide that off, and I'm going to take one end and I'm just going to loop it around a few times here like this, so that I have the wires secure, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to try to do it as exactly on the other side as possible here. I want to make sure that these are as balanced as I can get them. So I'll spin that around a couple of times. Again, you're just using it to hold, but what you want is something like this, maybe even a little bit better centered, so that your coil is balanced. You don't have it up here and the other one up there, so that there's an imbalance there. You want that basically like so. And again, you can adjust that as you go. Now the hard part's coming, where we're going to do the sanding. That bit is where you got to really be careful, and I'm going to cut off the ends here. So I'm going to give myself, maybe 15 centimeters or so, and I might cut some more off later, but I don't need all that on the end, so I'm going to cut that bit. And I don't want to cut off too close here, because when I do my sanding, that's going to be a problem. So I'm going to take that off like that. And now the key to this is that you want on one side only, you want to take your sandpaper and sand off all of the insulation. And you'll be able to tell by a color change. It'll look more coppery, like a shiny penny when you've taken off the insulation. So you're going to do this a while. See if you can see the difference there in color. I'm not sure if that's turning up on the video or not, but you'll be able to see it with your eye. Don't worry about getting too close to here, because if you still have some insulation in there, we'll loop that around a few more times at the end. But basically, I'm going to do this so that on one side only, I've taken off all the insulation for a couple of centimeters here of wire. And this is the key. This is usually when your motor doesn't work, it's because you haven't sanded it properly. So if your motor doesn't work when we get to the end, take the loop out, take out the solenoid, and see if you could sand it a little better. So this is the easy bit. I'm going to just keep doing that until I'm pretty certain that I've taken off all of the insulation all the way around this wire. And this takes a few minutes. So I have done that. I may do some more here. But the other side is the really important part too. Here is a little bit harder. This time you don't want to do the whole thing around. You only want to do half. So I'm going to lay this on the table, and I'm going to only do one side of this. I'm going to do this again until I can tell that it has no more insulation on it, and you should be able to see that with your eye. And again, I just want the insulation off on one side only, and if I rotate this with my fingers here and look at it, I can see where the insulation is and where it is not. Now, because it was hard to get in there, I'm going to give this another loop around, maybe two even. And this, I can help myself balance this out too if it's not balanced as well as I'd like, which it isn't right now after I've done that. I'll do the same thing with the other side, so that again I have a fully sanded side and a half sanded side, and that will be the key. Why we're doing this is we want a current to flow only half the time. We want it to be a magnet half the time. When the two uninsulated sides are touching the paper clips, when we connect them to the battery, the current will flow and the coil will be a magnet, and it'll be attracted to our little magnet that we're also going to attach there. But if that was the case, it would spin like so, like just, and then stop, because it'll be attracted to the magnet the way any permanent magnet is. So we don't want this to be permanently a magnet. We want it to spin around so that when it's being attracted, it gets pulled towards the magnet, but then the current is stopped because there's a little bit of insulation on one side, which doesn't allow the current to flow, which allows the loop to fall by, and then when it reconnects, oh, I'm attracted, I'm not attracted, I'm attracted, I'm not attracted, and the loop should spin like that. So we're almost there. We'll take our paper clips, and this really doesn't matter how you do this. How I like to do this is I take it like this, and I just pull out the center part, and I make this sort of shape like that. I do that twice. And now I want to tape these to the battery so it looks something like this. And we're going to put these in here, and that's what's going to hold the solenoid. But this loop here, really doesn't matter. There's all kinds of ways you can do this just so that this sits like this. And we want to make sure that these are far enough away from the battery that it has room to move. You can't have it too close because you don't want it to bang together. So when you tape these on, make sure they got a little bit of distance so that when you set that in there, you have room for both the magnet and the wire. So I'll tape those on now. And any kind of tape will do, and I usually hold these with my fingers too while I'm actually trying to make the motor run, so that I know that there's a good connection. So better tape here, or just something that you can use to hold this cradle near the battery. Push that out a little bit, and now I'm going to put that in like that, and I'm going to put that in like that. We're going to be really careful here because this can create a short circuit, but I just want to check that to make sure that there's got room to move, and I can tell it needs a bit more space, so I'm going to try to pull out these paper clips a little bit further, but again, they must be touching the electrodes at the end of the battery here. Just basically the metal has to be on metal, so that I have something like this. And now, and you might want to bend these around a little bit because you want it to spin like that, okay? You want something like that. Now this should work if I've sanded things properly, and I may have to go back and do that again. When I put my magnet on here, and I bring this a little bit closer, I should be able to have to do again some more adjustments, getting that magnet closer. I'm going to push these in a little bit now. I just want that to be as close to the magnet as I can without touching it. And you can see that it wants to go here already, right? And there we have it. We have built an electric motor. Word of caution, do not leave this in here when it's not running. That can get very hot, so don't just leave this in the cradle. When you're done playing with your motor, take that out. And if it didn't work the first time, then you almost certainly it's due to the sanding. So good luck and have fun.